Welcome to the deep dive. In today's digital world, it's just a fact. Organizations are constantly under attack. We're seeing devastating ransomware, huge data breaches. Seems like it's in the news almost every day. So that really brings us to the big question for this deep dive. Is cyber insurance, a critical financial safety net in this landscape? Or does it maybe have hidden issues and potential pitfalls that could cause more trouble? Our mission today is to really cut through that noise and help you figure out this whole decision about investing in cyber insurance. We're going straight to the source material you shared, pulling out the key points on the benefits, the drawbacks, and when it actually makes sense. Think of this conversation as your shortcut to getting informed. We want to give you clear insights, maybe some surprising facts to help you navigate this complex topic. So let's get into it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why are organizations even considering cyber insurance now? What's driving this whole conversation?
Well, fundamentally, it's the sheer volume and, frankly, the sophistication of the cyber threats we're seeing today. It's not just that attacks are happening more often, they're also getting much, much smarter. We're talking about moving way beyond simple phishing attempts. Now you see targeted spear phishing, complex supply chain attacks, even AI being used by attackers. It makes defense incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And these aren't just minor issues. They can pose real existential threats. They can potentially cripple a business, both financially and, its reputation.
And it's not just about the moment you get hit, is it? It seems like what happens after the attack is where the real pain is. That cost of recovery sounds like a huge driver.
Absolutely. The ripple effect financially can be, truly devastating. It hits every single part of an organization. You're looking at significant legal fees, the cost of forensic experts to figure out what happened, major operational downtime while you fix systems, and then there's the whole PR effort needed to manage the fallout and rebuild trust. And what's really sobering, some studies show about a quarter of small businesses hit by a major breach never actually recover. Many fail within a year.
A quarter? That's huge.
It is. These costs aren't just a one-off hit. They can spiral incredibly fast if you don't have a solid plan or a safety net.
Okay, so if the threats are that serious and the recovery costs are so high, what does this cyber insurance safety net actually promise? What are the upsides?
Right. The most direct benefit is, of course, the financial protection. Cyber insurance policies can cover a pretty broad range of expenses, things like the cost of recovering data, the legal fees that pile up during an incident, even potential fines from regulators if you're found non-compliant.
Like GDPR fines or IPA. Those can be massive.
Exactly. Those penalties alone can be devastating for a company without some form of coverage.
So, okay, it covers the money side. But what about keeping the business actually running during or right after an attack? Does it help with, operational resilience?
It definitely helps, yeah. It's a strong support for business continuity. By providing funds and often access to specialist teams, it helps get you back up and running faster. It minimizes that costly downtime.
Right.
And that's just crucial for keeping operations going, serving customers, and stopping the bleeding, the revenue loss during that chaotic time.
And with all the rules and regulations these days,
Yeah.
it feels like a minefield. Does insurance offer support there too?
It often does, yes. Many policies include components specifically for regulatory compliance support. This can help businesses navigate that complex web of industry standards and data protection rules after an incident happens. It can be a real lifesaver in avoiding extra legal trouble or penalties.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for me. Is it just about getting a check cut? Or do you actually get more than just money? Like expertise?
Oh, you absolutely get more than just money. That's often called risk management expertise. Insurers frequently give you access to their network of cybersecurity pros, incident response teams, forensic experts, people who really specialize in both prevention and rapid response.
So instead of scrambling on Google if you're hit.
Exactly. Imagine a small business hit by ransomware. Without insurance, they're desperately trying to find someone reputable, probably paying emergency rates. With insurance, they often get immediate access to vetted experts who've handled maybe hundreds of these attacks. That cuts down recovery time and costs drastically.
Yeah, I can see how that'd be huge, especially if you don't have a big internal security team.
It's invaluable in those cases. That kind of specialized, on-demand help is a major benefit.
And one last thing on the pros side. What about customer relationships? Does having insurance help build trust?
It really can. It signals that an organization is taking data security seriously, that they're being proactive. And if, or maybe when an incident does happen, having those resources to respond quickly, communicate transparently, recover efficiently, that can actually reinforce trust, rather than destroy it.
Okay, makes sense. But like any big decision, there have got to be downsides, right? Complexities to weigh up. It can't be a perfect fix for everyone.
That's absolutely right. No silver bullet here. One of the first hurdles is just the cost. We're talking potentially costly premiums.
Yeah.
These policies can be pretty expensive, particularly for small and medium-sized businesses, SMEs, where budgets are tight.
Right.
So the question becomes, is that cost always justified by the potential payout, especially for those smaller firms?
And what about situations where you think you're covered, but maybe you're not? Are there coverage gaps to worry about?
That's a really significant concern, something every organization needs to look at very closely in the policy details. Not all cyber risks might be covered. For example, some policies might specifically exclude things like nation-state attacks, attacks sponsored by foreign governments. Those are incredibly complex.
Okay.
Or they might exclude certain kinds of insider threats, maybe because it's hard to assess that risk, or maybe to prevent what's called moral hazard. You really have to read the fine print.
And then if something does go wrong, how easy is it to actually get the payout? Is the complex claims process a real thing when you're already stressed out?
Oh, it can absolutely be a hurdle. Filing a claim isn't usually quick or simple. It can be very time-consuming. It often requires tons of documentation, detailed proof. The crisis itself. It's not like getting a quick check in the mail.
This next one feels counterintuitive. Can having insurance actually make things worse somehow, like creating a false sense of security?
It sounds odd, but yes, it's a very real risk. If an organization starts relying too heavily on the insurance policy as their main defense, it might inadvertently lead them to neglect other crucial cybersecurity measures. The thinking might become, hey, we're covered, so why spend more on prevention?
Right, we bought the policy, we're good.
Exactly. And that over-reliance can actually make them less resilient and more vulnerable down the line.
And given how fast cyber threats change, can the policies actually keep up? Is this evolving threat landscape a problem for coverage?
It's a huge challenge. Policies are essentially static documents, right? But the threat environment is incredibly dynamic. The worry is that the policy wording might not keep pace with new types of malware, new attack techniques, things that weren't anticipated when the policy was written, that could reduce its effectiveness over time.
So you constantly need to review it.
Absolutely. Frequent review and updates are essential.
Okay, so let's flip this around. What happens if a company decides not to get cyber insurance?
Yeah.
What are the real risks of, going it alone?
Well, the most obvious risk is dealing with completely unpredictable costs. Without insurance, a single cyber incident can lead to financial losses that are just catastrophic. And the organization bears all of it. What's really scary is how fast those costs we talked about earlier, the recovery, legal, PR, can spiral completely out of control without that insurance safety net. For smaller businesses, it could easily mean bankruptcy.
Beyond just the money, what about the long-term hit, the damage to reputation? That seems almost harder to fix sometimes.
You're absolutely right. Reputation damage is enormous. If you don't have the financial resources to respond effectively and quickly, that can prolong the recovery, lead to a PR nightmare, and just severely damage customer trust. And rebuilding that trust can take years, if it happens at all.
Yeah.
Customers leave. A damaged reputation means lost business, plain and simple.
And if you don't have the insurer's experts ready to jump in, who helps you in a crisis? That limited expertise issue seems critical.
It really is. Without insurance, you might lack access to those specialized incident response teams and forensic experts that insurers often provide. So you're left scrambling to find external help during the crisis, probably paying premium rates, or you're relying on internal staff who might be completely overwhelmed. Either way, recovery gets delayed.
And are there actual penalties, like from regulators, if you don't have the resources to handle a breach properly?
Oh, yes. Very real regulatory penalties. If you can't comply with data protection rules, especially after a breach, you can face significant fines. These fines just add to the already heavy financial burden. Regulators expect organizations to respond swiftly and adequately, and not having the resources can lead to more scrutiny and bigger penalties.
And finally, how does all this affect just running the business day to day?
It leads straight to operational disruptions. Without insurance, all those recovery costs have to come directly out of the operational budget. That might force a company to halt core business activities, divert money from essential projects, maybe even lay off staff. It fundamentally impacts their ability to just function, let alone compete.
Okay, so it's clear this isn't a simple yes or no answer, is it? It really depends. When is cyber insurance genuinely recommended, And maybe when is it not really necessary? How do you tailor that decision?
You've hit the nail on the head. It's highly situational. Generally, cyber insurance is strongly recommended for any business handling sensitive customer data, think financial records, health information, PII. The consequences of a breach there are just too severe.
Right. High stakes.
Very high stakes. It's also really vital for organizations that have limited in-house cybersecurity resources. The insurance often fills that critical expertise and response gap we talked about.
Makes sense.
And maybe, obviously, companies in highly regulated industries often find it essential because of strict compliance rules and the high potential cost of getting it wrong.
Okay, so that's the recommended list. What about the flip side? Who might not need it? Where might it be, I don't know, overkill?
For some, it might be an unnecessary expense, true. You could argue maybe very small businesses with genuinely minimal digital footprints handling very little sensitive data. Their risk profile might be quite low.
Like a small local shop with just a basic website.
Potentially, yeah.
No.
Also, organizations that have already invested heavily in really robust, comprehensive in-house cybersecurity measures and have solid risk management plans, they might feel the direct benefit of insurance is less compelling. And finally, some larger entities might choose to effectively self-insure. They might have significant financial reserves specifically set aside for these kinds of unexpected events and decide to manage the risk internally.
Okay.
But really, the key takeaway here is that the decision boils down entirely to your specific risk profile as an organization, your internal capabilities, and crucially, the type and amount of data you handle.
So after this whole deep dive, thinking about the value versus the cost, the limitations, what really stands out to you? It seems like there's this tension between needing a safety net, but also needing strong security regardless.
That's exactly it. And it brings up, I think, a really important final question for anyone listening, for any organization. Regardless of whether you ultimately decide to buy cyber insurance or not, how does the very process of evaluating it force you to take a much harder, much more thorough look at your own digital vulnerabilities, at your real commitment to being resilient?
Ah, so the evaluation itself is valuable.
I think so. It starts a conversation, forces an assessment, and that can only strengthen your security posture in the long run, whatever you decide about the policy itself.